All right, I'll call this meeting of Saanich Council to order on Monday, February 15th. We're going to get on with the regular business soon. Councilor Berglund is away and sends his regrets, so he's just ahead of us here tonight. Tonight's council meeting is going to occur on two halves. It's going to start with the regular council meeting, followed by a committee of the whole, which I will chair. We're going to have two opportunities for public input. The first opportunity will come on the council portion, and if you have an agenda in front of you, I will call for public input on items C, D, and D. And then we'll move to committee of the whole, and then we'll take public input for each of those items. So if you come to speak about 805 Cloverdale Avenue, 574 Walter Avenue, the park management plan process, or sustainable municipal grounds, if you'd save your comments for the public, so the committee of the whole portion, that would be ideal. So with that, we'll start the meeting off with the adoption of minutes from previous meetings. Madam Clerk, please introduce that for us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This next item, the first item on is the council and committee of the whole minutes of January 25th, the special council and special committee of the whole of January 26th, and the special council and special committee of the whole of February 2nd.
Move it up.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. I'll call the question, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, public input. So, bylaws. We've got 728 Miller Avenue, summary of Saanich programs to support refugees, Glendenning Road parking report, derelict or abandoned vessels, home renovation tax credits, and review of downloaded building codes. If you would like to speak to any of those items, I'd like to invite you up to the microphone at this time. Please state your name and your address and leave your comment for 5 minutes. Most appreciated. First up, please. Welcome.
My name is Darrell Wick. I'm president of Friends of Mount Douglas Park Society. I'm speaking regarding the Glendenning Road parking report. And we certainly support the process, but would suggest a modest change to it, that it focus rather on car parking, but on park access, all modes, active transportation. And I just want to give two quick examples of where we think this could be helpful. One example is there are some bus stops in the park on Gorilla Bay Road, and every weekday morning the nature school with the little kids have to take that bus. There's no trail to it, there's no place to stand waiting for the bus. The only place you can stand is in the road. And so they take the kids, they take them about 20 meters away from the bus stop where there's just a little place that they can sort of hide off in the park in the bushes. Somebody goes out, stands in the road, and waits for the bus, weighs it down, and then asks the bus driver to move ahead and pick up the kids. It works, but it's sure not perfect. Another example that along the same lines is the Mercer Trail in the Blenkinsop Valley. There's parking there, but it's on the wrong side of the street, and there's no crosswalk. So there's a lot of little things like that. And so we would like to see the study expanded to be more focused on all modes and park access. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public wish to speak? Please come forward.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to talk. Peter Savage. I did talk to you last November. This will be just a brief comment. I live on Bridgeport Place in Saanich. I have a somewhat medical issue. I have osteoarthritis in my whole spine, so anytime I walk in a trail, I'm obliged to walk with poles. So I can't really park at Mount Doug Cross and walk up there. It's very limited. I can't also hold my dog's leash. So we like to park as close as possible to where we can go off leash. And I have a new grandson, 2 months old, who this summer I'd like to be able to wheel straight out of that parking lot up the trail. I like the wide, low trail in there. And I'd like the committee to consider a fact-based, common sense approach. And I have, because I go up there several times a week, it's very difficult to find one of the 5 parking spaces available. Almost every time I go up, there's somebody parked on the left-hand side, which I think is the west side up at the far end where we always used to park. There's always somebody there. I've counted as many as 10. And that means 15 in total parked up there. And that means there's obviously a demand for parking in that particular one. I talked to somebody on Saturday young folks with dogs, and they agree that there should be more parking in that particular place. It seems a common place. I appreciate it's a narrow road. I've never seen anybody speed. Most people slow down and move over for the other cars or the cyclists. I'll just give you a brief story about common sense. I started working in 1964 at a Slough training estate comprehensive school with 1,100 students, slum clearance, very, very difficult to deal with. Out on duty, this is a very new school, you had to keep the kids walking on the concrete paths, and of course the concrete paths were put alongside the building in right angles, and you could not keep the people walking on the path. They wanted to walk diagonally or on curves. One of the old teachers there had been a wing commander of the Royal Air Force in Southeast Asia. He was teaching some of the less intelligent students there. He was very good. And he said, "Peter, this is ridiculous." He said, "When we put an RAF station together and put all the buildings down first, we let people walk where they want to walk, then we pave it, because we find out where they want to go, and that's obviously something I think that we need to consider. If people are actually parking in no parking areas, even though I remind them that you can get a ticket there for parking. I know some parking tickets were issued earlier on when in July and August, I believe. I'm not sure any are now. There's obviously demand for parking at that particular spot. I've tried the one up on Blenkinsop. It's too steep for me. We went up there once. The road, the main one that goes up off Shelbourne, I find, is generally full, and so you have to find somewhere else. This particular parking spot is only like 2 miles away from where we live. It is the closest. It's generally a morning walk around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So for convenience, I just call it common sense. There's obviously demand for it, so I think you need to find somewhere to increase the amount of parking to around 15 or something. I had indicated that there should be some other places that could be carved out of that existing parking lot, just behind where the existing little parking bollards are right now, and could easily accommodate probably 15 or 20 without any trouble whatsoever. Oh, the other thought, if you're bothered about speed, put speed bumps along the road. You get them in various places throughout the area, so that shouldn't be a problem. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you.
Thank you. Are there any of the members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward.
Good evening, my name is David Poggi from 4180 Bracken, and I'm here tonight to speak on the Glendenning Road parking report. I sent 3 emails in this morning. The first one talked about the report, and I didn't have much of a problem with the report. I had a little bit of a problem with what was actually left out of the report. I found that the report kind of lacked any context or any framework. It's a little bit odd that you would have a proposal for a methodology without having some kind of a framework around it. I would say that it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse, but when I take a look at it, actually I couldn't find the horse, so we have a cart without a horse. And other than on those comments, I'll leave it up to the Parks Department to decide whether a framework would provide a little bit more information and a little bit more context for what they're trying to do. Now, the third memo that I sent this morning related to a request for a lifting of the parking ban on Glendenning during the period of time of the review. And I'm just going to read I'm not sure that you got the copy. It was quite late this afternoon, so I'm just going to read from the email. Our team requests that during the intervening period of the review, the current parking ban be lifted on Glendenning Road. We believe that the district has not provided sufficient appropriate justification for why the ban was imposed in the first place. We also know that previous requests for additional information with respect to the ban from the fire and engineering departments have been ignored, and we think this attitude by Saanich management is unacceptable. In our opinion, continuing the ban would be an unnecessary and undue hardship on those who wish to access the park at the Glendenning Road location. As a result, we suggest the following motion for consideration by Council at the meeting tonight. The motion, the Council direct the engineering and fire departments to respond to any and all outstanding communications from myself, including addressing specific issues and concerns contained within, with a copy of the response to Mayor and Council by 30 days from February 15, 2016, which is tonight. If the engineering and fire department fail to respond in a sufficient and appropriate manner, or if any response fails to adequately address issues and concerns contained therein in a sufficient and appropriate manner, then council shall direct the parking ban on Glendinning Road be lifted until the proposed report is delivered by the Parks Department. And in addition to that, I just want to add that if there is no response or that the council fails to take any action, then I will recommend to my team that we boycott the process until the review is finished, and then we'll just pick it up from there and start the process all over again, I guess. Anyways, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mayor and Council, my name is Mark Collins from 4349 Faithwood Road. I'm also the Vice President of the Blenkinsop Valley Community Association. The Blenkinsop Valley Community Association supports the staff recommendation for the methodology to be used to study parking in and around Mount Douglas Park. It's important not to study Glendenning parking in isolation, as Glendenning is but one of many accesses to Mount Douglas Park for visitors to use, to enter and enjoy the park. With that in mind, I suggest the title of the report be amended to read Mount Douglas Park Access Report, Scope Clarification. The Blenkinsop Valley Community Association will be happy to assist by providing a representative to the proposed advisory working group that the report suggests might take place. And we believe the parking restrictions to protect the beautiful trees, bridle path and boulevard along Glendenning Road, and emergency vehicle access to homes along the road should remain in effect until council has received the report and made a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak? Please come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Barbara Tabata, Gordon Head Residents Association representative. And we would just like to say that we are happy that staff has gone back to try to come up with a creative solution on the parking issue of Glendenning, and we hope that that issue can be resolved with the work that they're going to do. And we look forward to all the reports and how it's all played out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward.
Thank you, Council. My name is Chris Samuels, and I am one of the directors with the British Columbia Nautical Residents Association. We have a mission to preserve and support the tradition of living aboard one's vessel, promote environmental awareness among liveaboards, establish effective communications to resolve issues that concern liveaboards, and to serve as a voice for liveaboards regarding activities that affect BC waterways, and with a mandate to liaise with community and government groups regarding development activities that affect BC waterways and people who live upon them. The association and its membership is also concerned about derelict and abandoned vessels, and the potential environmental, economic, navigational hazards to Canadian waterways that they pose. First of all, we encourage everyone to discard the misconception that liveaboards and derelict vessels are the same. The majority of liveaboards are responsible owners who care for the vessels, the environment, and the neighbors. We are supportive of former MP Gene Crowder, or we were supportive of former MP Gene Crowder's Bill C-638, which placed responsibility of dealing with derelict vessels upon the Coast Guard. We are optimistic and researching to confirm that MP Sheila Mountanson's Bill C-219 is in the same spirit. And we also support research into a system similar to Washington State, where a small annual fee to boaters helps fund and support a program that deals with environmental issues associated with boat use. Additionally, homelessness occurs both on our streets and on our waters. We encourage Council to find compassionate and creative ways to address these challenges. British Columbia Nautical Association is open to meeting and helping in any way it can with issues involving liveaboards. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Just a quick question for you. I just wanted to learn a little bit more about the organization. Is there like a local chapter for Victoria, or how's it organized?
It's, we're actually based out of Victoria, but it's BC-wide.
Okay, thank you for that. Come on up. You're the next contestant on The Council is Right.
Bad knees. I'm also from the British Columbia Nautical Residents Association, a director. And what I want to talk about a little bit is the bill that you have before you here about trying to get rid of derelict vessels. I've lived aboard for 28 years, and I've anchored all over this coast, and I've seen all kinds of derelict vessels and so forth. And talking to the Coast Guard, which we approached them several years ago about how to deal with this one, and they assured me that if they had $2 for every vessel that's on this coast, there wouldn't be a derelict in sight. The problem is they have no money. As this is proposed, if in fact they do a similar thing as is done in Washington State, where every year, every boater has to get a decal that they put on their boat, I think it costs like $28. You're assured when you look at that every boat has at least been visited once a year, and somebody's taken enough interest at least to put that decal on there, and if the money goes to the Coast Guard to deal with these kinds of issues, they'll be dealt with. And it'll take it away from municipalities and so forth, such as you, and all the expense that you have to deal with. They'll know the legal problems that need to be dealt with, and they're known as the superintendent of wrecks. They have the facilities to deal with it. They just don't have the money. And if we are able to put this type of thing through, this type of bill through, it's going to mean that it's going to take it away from the municipalities, and these things will be done, and they'll know how it's done. Right now, different municipalities have different ideas on how they're going to do this kind of thing, and it just gets all in a mucky muck. In Vancouver, they're trying to deal with anchored boats in Falls Creek, and they're spending over $1 million a year and can collect no money from the boaters. Legally, they can collect no money. It's a very expensive thing to get involved with. If the Coast Guard's involved, all it is a phone call and say, we've got a problem vessel here, they'll know what to do with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rob Wixon. I'm president of the Gorge Tilcombe Community Association. I live at 2836 Inez Drive. I really wasn't going to speak on this because I thought it was well in hand, but I think there's a lot more conversation to be had when we hear from a residents association that I hadn't heard about before tonight. So it's useful hearing that and understanding that this issue around boats and derelict boats and liveaboards and so on is very, very complex. And it's not one that we're used to because we're used to doing land-based management as opposed to water-based management. So it's going to take a while to get all the little bits and pieces, but I really appreciate that this step is being taken because finding the money has always been an important piece of any puzzle. And I've heard through the grapevine that there are pots of money that have been sitting there for this kind of purpose, but nobody's tried to access them or figure out how to access it. So this, I think, is very good. But I think we also have to note that the work that we're doing here is not just for Saanich. It's actually for all coastal waters in BC. So that's a big, big project. So if we can afford to invest the time and effort to bring this to a provincial level, good on us. This is exactly what we should be doing. We're a powerful community, and we should stand up and make sure that our voices are heard. So congratulations on this little piece. Realize there's a lot more to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Eric Daly, 2923 Mount Baker View Road. And on behalf of the Cadbro Bay Residents Association and the kids that play in Cadbro Gyro Park, thank you very much for taking decisive action and getting that 40-ton hulk out of the bay. And I'll be there at noon tomorrow cheering. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Marcia Henderson, 660 Goyette Road, speaking for Royal Oak Community Association on item C, 728 Miller Avenue. I was here a few weeks ago to state that our executive had no objections to the proposal at that time. Since then, we've had a community association general meeting, and at that point, it was moved and voted on and to support in principle, sorry, I'm reading my notes here and I don't have very good writing, to support in principle the rezoning from A1 to RS10 and RS6. And that's the membership of the association. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on items C, D, and E? Calling for a second time? Calling for a third time? Any members of the public that wish to speak? All right, well, that was the most part given, and thank all of our speakers. And we move on to item C, bylaws for first reading. Madam Clerk, could you please introduce that item for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is first reading of zoning amendment bylaw 9373 to rezone the property at 728 Miller Avenue to RS6 and RS10 for one additional single-family residential lot. This item is on board public hearing scheduled for February 22nd.
Move first reading. Second.
Okay, moved by Colin, moved by Councilor Plan, I should say, seconded by Councilor Dermott. Any discussion? Just first reading, call the question, all in favor, opposed, none opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to item D. Madam Clerk?
This next item is a report from our Chief Administrative Officer in regard to a summary of Sandwich programs to support refugees. The report is recommending that Council receive the report for information.
I saw Councilor Rice's hands first.
Move the recommendation.
Second by Councilor Haynes. And I'll go to Councilor Rice first, then Councilor Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the staff for putting together this report. It certainly seems that the bulk of the support that Sandwich directly can give us through its recreation programs, which is great. And I would want to share with Council the information that the Mayor and I are aware of, that the Transit Commission has also provided for free transit for the first year that the refugees are in our city. So even though that is not directly Sandwich, it is indirectly, because we are the agency that shepherds that service through too. So I support this and want the Council to know there's additional support as well.
Great, thank you, Councilor. Councilor Plant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would like to thank staff for preparing this. I'm just wondering if there would be any appetite or value in us sending a copy of this to the ICA as well as down to the CRD, so that if there were any operations put together on a regional level, they would be aware of what's potentially available. I don't know if that requires a motion or anything, or it's just we can just do that.
Yeah, it does need a motion. Excellent idea.
Thank you.
Staff may note of that. Perfect. All right. Councilor Haynes.
Just to put in some additional information, I was talking to Steve Wallace, who, as you know, runs Wallace Driving School, and he's providing free driving lessons for the refugees that are here. And he had a small anecdote, which I'll share with you, just to give you you a sense of what they're dealing with. He's driving along with the father of the family. Sometimes the family's in the back, and as they're driving, they're looking up like this. And as they go along, if there's a pothole in the road, they swerve up like this. And he said, you can't do that. You know, he's looking for eyes on the road. But habitually, they're looking for snipers and they're looking for IEDs, just by reflex. And it's taken a bit of time for him to work that through. So it gives you a sense of the changes that they're going to have to adjust to. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question on this. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed, that carries unanimously. Thank you. And for the extras. All right, let's move on to item 2 then. Madam Clerk, could you introduce that for us?
Item 2 is referenced on our agenda as the Glendenning Road Parking Report Scope Clarification. The report of the Director of Parks and Recreation is recommending the Council endorse the methodology outlined in the report to develop access to Mount Dunn Park.
Councilor German?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. First of all, I certainly agree with what was expressed in terms of the title of the report. I hope that in future it would be referred to simply as the Mount Douglas Access Report. Not even parking, but just Mount Douglas Access, since we're really concerned with all modes of transportation by which people get there. Secondly, and that I think is consistent with what the representatives from the Friends of Mount Doug said, and is consistent with language.
I think if I can add, it's also consistent with the motion.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to put forward a suggested change in the discussion where it talks about the methodology, and there are a number of points made. The third point down says develop options to address parking and other forms of access, public transit, cycling, etc., both inside and the immediate vicinity outside the park. Options that minimize impacts to the natural character of the park are preferred. I would put, in addition, such options should minimize impact to the special nature, character, and experiences that accesses to the park themselves provide users. So I would go beyond the boundaries of the park. The first one talks about minimizing the natural concerns of the park, concern of impact on the natural areas of the park. I think there also should be an attempt, at least, to minimize the impact on the access routes themselves. That in some cases, such as Glendenning and others, provide a particularly attractive experience to users who are going there. So I think that should be a consideration. And I also move that that be added to the methodology.
Second.
Second. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you just read that change back for us?
In its entirety, no, but I would be pleased.
Because I think I had trouble catching it. It sounded really good.
Also, such options should also minimize, attempt to minimize the special nature, character, and experience that access routes themselves provide to users of the park.
I understand it now. So moved and seconded, we'll have some discussion on this now. If there's any clarification that needs to be on this change, it's essentially being put forward with this recommendation modified. Right? Well, we get right out of the discussion piece, I think you were amending the recommendation. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could, I'd like to get some clarification. One of the comments we had was around accessibility. And although part of the methodology talks about trail ratings as they relate to access points, I also think that perhaps we might be looking at some of our existing parking spaces that are close to entranceways that might have accessibility parking, so that those that need to get as close as possible will. So I just wouldn't want that missed out in the study as well.
Thank you. Councilor Bryce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, I guess, to staff. One of the members of the public talked about related traffic issues and gave the anecdote about the bus and the children and the parking and the stop sign. And I would be interested in hearing from staff if the bullet develop options to address parking and other forms of access, e.g. public transit, cycling, pedestrian, both inside immediate vicinity outside the park, would give them the sense that that would be captured, or would that be something that would be separate and have to be identified as such?
Our Director of Parks, welcome.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Yes, that was the intent, that we'd be capturing a broader scope rather than just vehicle access.
Councillor Haynes and then Councillor Flanagan, you're next, I apologize. And Councillor Haynes.
No problem, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question for clarity. Are we just on the amendment right now, or are we doing the whole motion as one?
It all came as one.
It's all, so that amendment.
It was
Okay.
put on the table that way.
Okay, then I have a series of questions first before I speak towards in favor. I'd like to ask for either the Director of Engineering and Director of Parks' opinion on the appropriateness and perhaps precedent of taking signs down. If there's been an example of that, as far as while we do a study, it was suggested that we potentially take the signs down while the study's going on. So has that ever been done in Saanich before? Once signs are up, we've never done a review and taken them down.
We have the Director of Parks back to the microphone, just to answer this question, perhaps some others.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Plant. Certainly, I'm not aware of any specific ones. I haven't done any background research on it. I would think that just taking them down while the study goes on would be probably an unusual step, as opposed to going through a process and then realizing, oh, okay, yeah, we could have made a different decision earlier on. But to take them down just while the study is going on, simply for the fact that a study is going on, I would be surprised if that's been done in the past.
Okay, I'm just seeking some clarification. The second piece that I'd like to ask the question is, I was a little bit surprised to see it coming back for scope clarification after 3 months. I was expecting a report to be coming forward. Can I ask